Okay, today I want to talk about the supplement to the Marvel Superheroes game. It's just a collection of heroes. It had holes pre-punched in it so you could put it into a binder. And I just want to go through this because it's a really good resource for who was in the Marvel Universe at the time this was made. The Abomination, who I didn't realize was Croatian. He's from Zagreb. Yeah, at the time this character was created, he was a communist villain. We're in the middle of the Cold War, and so they made him from Yugoslavia, which Zagreb was part of at the time. The Absorbing Man was an interesting Thor villain. Aguila is a hero, swashbuckling hero. I remember in a comic once he met Hawkeye, and Hawkeye said, "Yeah, you and I watched the same movies as kids, didn't we?" Okay, Airwalker is one of the heralds of Galactus. There's an Alpha Primitive. American Eagle is an obscure hero. The Ancient One, who died in the 70s. So I'm not sure why he's in here. Andromeda is an Atlantean like Submariner. Angar the Screamer. He's a 70s hero who was a hippie. He was eventually killed off in the 90s. The Ani-Men. These are minions of Count Nefaria, and 3 of them became Daredevil villains. They showed up as minions of Daredevil. 3 of them became the Terrible Trio, who fought Daredevil. But the Ani-Men worked for Count Nefaria when he fought the X-Men, which resulted in the death of Thunderbird. Here's Anilius. He's from the Negative Zone. Ant-Man. This version of Ant-Man is Scott Lang, just like in the movies, because that change had already happened. There's Apocalypse and his 4 horsemen, one of whom was Archangel at the time this was made. Aquarian. He started off as like a version of Superman with the body of a baby. He says has an adult body but the body of a baby, but then he contact with the Cosmic Cube radically altered his powers, and he has rather unique powers in order to cancel inertia, and it's a shame not more has been done with him. The Arabian Nights, it's an Arabic hero. Arcade, he's a lot like a Batman villain, isn't he? He fought the X-Men a couple of times. There's Archangel in his angel costume, not the other one I showed you earlier. Ares, one of the Greek gods. Ariel is a mutant. Archon is like, his personality is like King Conan, but he's from another dimension. The Armadillo is a Captain America villain who tried to become straight, and really bad luck happens to him, and he ends up on the wrong side of the law by mistake. Here's R.M. Zola, who looks a lot different than the movies. I'm really disappointed because this version of it is really, really creepy looking. And the movie made him too ordinary. So here's some of the Asgardians here. And the Astronomer. And Atuma is an Atlantean villain. There's Aurora, a member of Alpha Flight. She's basically a flying speedster. Avalanche was one of the original, or one of the new Brotherhood of Evil Mutants members. He was basically a telekinetic. Balder, one of the Asgardians. Baron Blood is basically a vampire. Baron Mordo looks a lot different in the movies, doesn't he? Baron Strucker was a Hydra leader, so he was a Nick Fury villain. Baron Zemo They use the same picture for both of them. The original one was a Captain America villain who died in the early 60s. And then later in the 70s, his son came back. In the 80s, his son put on the Baron Zemo costume and became the new Baron Zemo, which is here he is as the new Baron Zemo. The Basilisk is a snake-themed villain. There's Batroc's Brigade. Batroc is basically an acrobat, and he had a little squad of people who were also acrobats who fought Captain America. Battlestar was the sidekick to the replacement Captain America in the 80s. There's the Beast. The Beetle, who was still a villain back then. He goes back to the early 60s. There was a really good fight between him and Hawkeye in one of the early Avengers comics. Belasco rules another dimension. Is sort of like hell, so he's sort of like Satan. There's Beta Flight, who are like the second stringers for Alpha Flight. The Beyonder, the Secret Wars was a big thing at the time, and this is him from Secret Wars 2. Now, Binary is Carol Danvers. She used to be Ms. Marvel, and then Rogue stole her powers, and then she got more powers and became Binary, who was her power set resembled Phoenix a lot. And then they took her powers away and made her like Ms. Marvel again. And then she took the Captain Mar Vel name away from Monica, so that's it. And Black Bolt. The Black Cat is basically a copy of Catwoman. She was a Spider-Man girlfriend for a while. Those were really interesting comics, and I was really disappointed when they ended that relationship and brought back Mary Jane. Black Crow, just a Native American themed hero. The Black King, it was a long time before he had a code name. He was just Sebastian Shaw for several comics. He was an X-Men villain, part of the Hellfire Club, which was an organization of super rich people who were trying to control the world. There's the Black Knight. The Black Knight goes back to the 60s, and he hardly was used at all. The original Black Knight was his uncle, who's a villain, and then his nephew took on the title and got the Ebony Blade and became an interesting hero in the 90s for the Avengers, the 80s and 90s. Black Panther. Black Queen, or also known as Selene, was a member of the Hellfire Club. She was basically an immortal vampire. Black Talon is a guy who does voodoo. He was the guy who brought Wonder Man back to life in the 70s. There's the Black Widow, which looks quite a bit different than she does in the movies. That was Frank Miller redesigned her to look like that. Blacklash, who used to be called Whiplash, who is a really lame Iron Man villain. That's trouble making Iron Man movies is most of his villains do the same thing as Iron Man. Blackout is like Sinestro, I guess, sort of, but not quite. Blastar is a negative zone villain who was really awesome when he first appeared and has been lame ever since. Blizzard controls weather. The Blob, he hasn't been in the movies, has he? The Blob, he's really fat and can't be hurt and can't be moved. And that's his power. So, yeah, he's pretty strong, too. So he gets in fights with people like Colossus. Boom Boom, who is, after this, changed her name to Boomer. She's just a mutant who makes bombs. Boomerang is one of several people who's good at throwing stuff. Box, a member of Alpha Flight. He can control a robot body. Brother Voodoo. Fred Hempels had a lot of fun with Brother Voodoo. He was a 70s mystic character who could possess people, and that was his basic power. And he's the Brothers Grimm were some mist-powered villains. Caliban. He was more interesting when he first appeared. Later, he just became a mutant who could find other mutants. Cannonball, one of the original New Mutants who could fly and was invulnerable while he was flying. Captain America, you probably know him. Captain Britain was super strong and could fly. Here's Captain Mar Vel. For some reason, the DC gave up or let the rights lapse for Captain Marvel. So Marvel created Captain Mar Vel. This is not his original costume, but this is the one I know him under. And originally his hair was silver, and it got turned yellow when Jim Starlin was writing it. And it didn't seem that way at the time. Looking back, he was sort of like Superman. I think I'm going to stop here and continue in another.